Heartwarming act, Janitor's incredible kindness revealed transforms life of poor woman, hidden beneath the surface. Clara's heart raced as she clutched the eviction notice tight in her hands, the paper crumpling under her mounting pressure. Each day felt like a relentless fight against a tide that threatened to drown her. It hovered over her like a dark cloud, always reminding her of the rent due and her unpaid bills echoing in the rundown halls of her Chicago apartment. But the weight of that burden paled in comparison to her fierce love for Mia. At just 14, Mia lit up Clara's world like the sun piercing through heavy clouds. She was vibrant and aspiring dancer in a school where dreams flourished against all odds. Yet the sobering truth was never lost on them. One misstep could cost them their small sanctuary. Just as the bitterness of reality threatened to swallow her whole, Clara discovered unexpected fragments of hope, a handful of crisp bills spotted in the most unassuming places. It started innocently enough when Mia found a small envelope tucked inside her locker, signed with the comforting words, "A friend." In that moment, belief flickered in Clara's heart. Who was this secret benefactor? The mystery enveloped her like a warm embrace, soothing the raw edges of her precarious existence. Unbeknownst to her, Jack, the school's humble janitor, was the unsung hero behind those small acts of kindness. With a tender gaze and a quiet understanding, Jack saw Clara's struggles reflected in her daily grind. He understood the silent battles of life and the battles that never left him in the wake of war. He wished, with all his heart, that he could shield her and Mia from the storms they faced daily. The soft rustle of envelopes against the rough edges of the world outside became Clara's connection to a hope that seemed so out of reach. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But the universe quickly threw another wave at Clara. Funding cuts threatened Mia's cherished dance program, a place where her creativity surged, where she'd toil away from reality for even just an hour a day. Clara felt her legs buckle beneath her, a debilitating fear clawing at her gut. When Mia rushed in, her eyes gleaming with excitement over the dance recital, Clara couldn't bear to ruin it with her burdens. In a surge of strength, she pushed against Jack's kindness, unwilling to accept help as though it would erode her dignity. Yet as her emotions bubbled to the surface, every sleepless night, every scraped-together dollar she broke, shattered moments transforming her fragile resolve into raw vulnerability. It was in those moments that Jack stepped into the shadows, finally revealing the truth behind his kindness. Their conversation charged the air, bursting open a dialogue weighted by their struggles. Under the fluorescent school lights, they began to understand they were not just individuals alone in their battles, but rather voices calling for change together. Clara contemplated Jack's words, realizing that real strength wasn't just in stoicism, but also in accepting help. But as they ventured through the emotional storm together, the truth remained a question of whether their shared courage could truly ignite a beacon of change for their community, leaving the reader wondering how deep their journey would go and what the future held for Clara, Mia, and Jack. The days that followed felt like a blur of uncertainty, but one thing remained steadfast: the bond between Clara and Jack grew stronger. Clara began visiting Jack in the school's maintenance room, where they would talk about more than just money. Jack shared stories of his own struggles, his past, the war, and how it had shaped the man he had become. The quiet resilience in his voice resonated with Clara, creating an unspoken connection. It was raw and real. Jack, who had miraculously navigated his own dark waters, grounded Clara. She found solace in his calm, pushing the weight of the eviction notice momentarily aside. Each meeting brought her a bit more clarity, like cleaning dirt from a smudged window. They spoke of dreams, their laughter creating a symphony of hope amidst the chaos. Jack encouraged her to believe that change was possible, not just for them but for the community that often felt overlooked. One afternoon, Clara had gathered enough courage to ask Jack for help in rallying the community behind Mia's dance program. "They need us," she said, her voice unwavering, a chance to remind everyone how powerful our dreams are. Jack nodded, his eyes sparkling with newfound purpose. He knew many in the neighborhood were struggling, like Clara and Mia, yet all too often those struggles went unnoticed. As word spread about the upcoming dance recital, they began to organize a fundraiser. Jack became a familiar face at the local grocery store and cafes, spreading the word and finding small sponsors. Friends, families, and even complete strangers pitched in. Clara couldn't believe how quickly the community rallied around them, igniting a surge of hope. Mia, unaware of the tide turning outside her world, practiced relentlessly. But with the pressure of their precarious situation, Clara couldn't shake the worry that loomed like clouds threatening rain. What if they couldn't raise enough? What if the program still got cut? As the fundraiser day approached, Clara felt the weight of the world return. She envisioned Mia dancing on stage, and the thought filled her heart, yet there was doubt gnawing at her insides. The night arrived. The school auditorium buzzed with energy. Families filled the seats, eyes gleaming with pride and excitement. Clara sat with Jack, watching as Mia took the stage, her presence illuminating every corner of the room. The audience cheered, their applause echoing like a heartbeat. But as the performance unfolded, Clara's thoughts drifted to the financial donations filling the boxes on stage. Soon, it was time to reveal the total raised. Clara's hands trembled, holding on to Jack's reassuring grip. As Mia bowed with graceful enthusiasm, Clara hoped prayed that they had done enough. As the school principal announced the grand total, a jubilant cheer rose up, echoing throughout the hall. Clara felt the weight lift just slightly, but doubt still lingered. As Mia descended from the stage, elated, Clara looked into her daughter's eyes, feeling the swell of pride mixed with uncertainty. Would this be enough to secure their dreams? All we needed was a spark, Jack whispered, his eyes reflecting joy. Clara's heart seemed to recognize that moment as crucial, the embers of change were beginning to glow. But deep down, she felt a flicker of fear. What if their hope wasn't enough? What if the next storm was already gathering on the horizon? The answer eluded her as the applause rang out, drowning her thoughts in a tidal wave of emotion. And as they basked in the warmth of the crowd's support, another unexpected shadow started to form. What would it mean for them if the dance program succeeded? And yet, their personal battles waged on. The days that followed the fundraiser felt electric, charged with a tantalizing mix of hope and lingering fears. Clara bounced between moments of triumph and the sinking dread that came with uncertainty. With the community rallying behind them, she had expected to feel lighter, yet her heart held on to that familiar weight. Jack had become not just a friend but a steadfast mentor. They continued to meet in the maintenance room, which had turned into their sanctuary. The cluttered space, filled with shelves of cleaning supplies and tools, now buzzed with their dreams. Jack, ever the realist, was starting to intensify his own vision. "We can't just stop here, Clara," he urged one afternoon, his eyes serious. "This is the launch pad. We should aim higher." Clara took a deep breath. But what if it all falls apart? She leaned against the wall, the edges of her worry creeping back in. "We're still on the brink. Mia's program might be funded, but what about rent? What about tomorrow?" Jack stepped closer, softening his voice. "You know, sometimes the best laid plans they need something unexpected to push them forward." And in that moment, she wondered about transformation. Could they really harness this energy and turn it into something more? Clara recalled how the audience had exploded with joy at Mia's performance. Their support was palpable. If only they could bottle that emotion and pour it into their daily battles. Then, the thought struck her, maybe a community event could go beyond just dance. They could unite everyone for something bigger, a showcase of all talents in the neighborhood. Art, music, and culture melded together. "Jack," she began slowly, "what if we held a festival? A day for everyone to share their gifts?" He nodded, his enthusiasm igniting at the very idea. "Yes. Something that not only highlights Mia's dance but also everything else that makes this neighborhood special." We could bring in local artists, have food stalls, music. Clara couldn't help but smile. The vision was even more beautiful than she had imagined, dreams colliding like fireworks. A festival would take time and a lot of hard work, though. They would need volunteers, more sponsors, and bigger planning. Clara felt a familiar pang of doubt creep back in. Can we really pull this off? Why not? Jack smiled, that comforting, crooked smile that reassured her. We've already brought this community together once. We can do it again. They quickly began mapping it out. Social media posts, flyers plastered on community boards, word of mouth. Clara blinked as she saw the responses come pouring in. Friends, neighbors, even local small businesses wanted to contribute. The sense of camaraderie swelled like a tide. Yet despite the excitement, shadows still danced on the edges of Clara's happiness. The eviction notice loomed like a storm cloud. What if this festival didn't bring in enough? What if there were no more chances after this? She had to protect Mia. Days turned into weeks as preparations for the festival surged ahead. Clara lost herself in the organizing frenzy, buoyed by the thrill of collaborating with her community. But every evening, when the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long, those thoughts weighed heavy. What if the safety net tore before they could even begin to leap? On the day of the festival, Clara stood behind a table, watching the people filter in. Families crowded around tents filled with food, laughter ringing through the air. The warmth felt almost unreal. But as she scanned the crowd, a figure drew her attention, a stranger, observing from the sidelines with an inscrutable expression. The unease prickled at her skin. Who were they, and what did they want? Just as she was about to lean over to Jack and ask, the stranger locked eyes with her. An odd feeling surged through her. It was as if they already knew more than they should about her story. What was their connection to everything she had fought for? As the excitement of the festival swirled around her, an unexpected wave of dread washed over Clara. Who was this mystery figure? And what impact would they have on her and Mia's hard-won dreams? Clara's heart raced as she held the stranger's gaze. The joy of the festival dimmed, and a knot formed in her stomach. Who was this person? Why did they seem so familiar with her struggles? Stepping away from the bustling table, she moved closer to the figure. The noise of the crowd faded into a soft hum, the vibrant colors of booths and decorations blurring as her focus fixed on them. With each step, the stranger remained still, an enigmatic silhouette against the backdrop of happiness. "What's your deal?" Clara asked, trying her best to sound confident despite the flutter in her chest. The stranger smiled slightly, but it didn't reach their eyes. "I was just watching," they said, their voice low and steady. "I've been following your journey." Her skin prickled with a mix of confusion and suspicion. "Why?" "There's something special happening here," they replied, gesturing to the festival around them. "You're creating something bigger than you know." "But I also know things aren't as simple as they seem." Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. "What do you mean?" The stranger's expression shifted, revealing a hint of concern. "Your plans are admirable, and you have the community's support, but storms can brew quickly, can't they?" "What do you know about storms?" She shot back, her voice thick with defiance. "You don't know what it's like." "Actually, I do." The stranger took a step forward, their intense eyes locking onto hers. "I've faced my own battles. And sometimes, when you're fighting so hard for someone you love, it's easy to ignore warning signs." Clara's heart sank at the implication. "Who are you?" "I'm someone who once cared deeply for the support of a community," they said quietly. "I lost everything in a moment of complacency. I don't want the same fate to befall anyone else." As the stranger spoke, Clara felt the festival swing back into focus, laughter and joy flickering around her. It was hard not to feel their weighty words settle in her heart. Just then, Jack appeared at her side, drawn by the unusual tension. "Clara, everything okay?" "Yeah, I'm just talking," Clara replied, glancing back at the stranger who was now studying Jack. She could sense an unspoken understanding between them, a thread woven from shared experiences. "You should let them in," the stranger said, their gaze drifting to the crowds ahead. "Another pair of hands can help. You can't do it all alone." The suggestion hung in the air, heavy and tempting. Could she truly let go of the burdens she had been carrying? But a part of her was hesitant. They didn't know the dangers, the risks of expecting too much or trusting too freely. Before she could reply, the stranger turned and began to walk away, blending back into the crowd. "Wait!" Clara called out, her voice rising above the music. But the stranger didn't turn, only continued onward, disappearing into the sea of festival-goers. "What was that about?" Jack asked, concern etched on his face. Clara shook her head, dazed. I don't know. Do you think they were right? Should we? I don't know." Clara interjected, frustration curling in her chest. "It's complicated, Jack. So many things depend on this festival, and I just can't shake this feeling." As the sun began to set, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, Clara felt the festival atmosphere shift. The smiles around her were bright, but doubt lingered like a shadow. The stranger's words echoed in her mind. She had been so focused on surviving that she had skipped over the realities of asking for help. With a deep breath, she turned back to the crowd, determination setting in. She would confront the unknown. She had to, and just as the first notes of music drifted through the air, a loud crash sounded from behind one of the booths, shattering the moment. The joyful chatter turned to gasps. What was that? Jack shouted as they rushed toward the sound, Clara right behind him. Her heart pounded. What was happening? A new obstacle emerged, throwing everything they had worked for into question once more. Would they overcome this challenge like the others? Or would it finally break them apart? The air was electric with surprise when Clara and Jack reached the source of the commotion. A makeshift stall had collapsed, spilling a colorful array of handmade crafts across the ground. Ordinarily a place of laughter and joy, it now harbored a scene of panic. A woman, her face pale and eyes wide, stood frozen amid the wreckage, cradling her arm. "Are you okay?" Clara rushed to her side, kneeling beside the disarray and the fallen items that reflected the vibrant spirit of the festival. The woman winced, but she nodded. "I think I just twisted it." I didn't expect. Before she could finish, a tall figure rushed in from the crowd. Clara recognized him immediately. It was Marty, the janitor who often kept the neighborhood clean. He was key to many of the community's small efforts and often unnoticed in the hustle. "Stand back," he called out, his voice calm amid the chaos. He crouched beside the woman, examining her arm with practiced hands. "You're going to be all right. Just take deep breaths." Clara exchanged glances with Jack as Marty carefully helped the woman sit up. "Someone fetch me some ice," he instructed. He glanced at Clara, lowering his voice to just above a whisper. "We're in a tight place right now. We can turn this around." She was taken aback. "What do you mean?" Marty gestured to the crowd that was gathering. "This is a chance. We can show what community really means." He started directing those who had gathered, asking some to fetch ice from a nearby food stall and others to gather the crafts that had spilled across the ground. Clara couldn't help but feel a surge of admiration. Here was a man often overlooked, stepping up when the moment called for it. She thought of the stranger's words about asking for help. Were they already beginning to ring true? As people rushed to collect the fallen crafts, the festival spirit began to shift back. Murmurs of encouragement spread through the crowd. Clara joined in, reaching for an art piece nearby. Together, they worked side by side, the festival noise fading as they focused on fixing what had been broken. "Thanks for jumping in like that," Jack said, gesturing at Marty as they picked up items together. "He always seems to be invisible around here." "It's wild," Clara replied, a smile breaking through the tension. "He knows how to rally people. He's not just cleaning the streets, he's building something more. He sees us. She could feel the mood shifting. With every craft restored and every piece returned to its rightful place, hope filled the air once more. Laughter re-emerged as the crowd began to help, and the woman who had hurt her arm was soon being cared for by friends with ice packed against her skin. But as Clara watched the community come together, she noticed the stranger from before lingering at the edge of the crowd. Their watchful gaze took in everything, yet this time there was a smile on their lips. Clara's heart raced again, but this time it was fear mingled with curiosity. What connection did they have to this moment? The festival isn't just about celebration, Clara thought, catching the stranger's eye. It's about the bonds we forge. As the celebration resumed, music and laughter intertwining with newfound resilience, the stranger slipped away again, leaving Clara with a sense of urgency to uncover their role in all of this. Why did they come back? She whispered to Jack, feeling the weight of unanswered questions. Just as festive lights began to twinkle above, signaling the night's true start, Clara sensed more than just the thrill of joy returning to the festival. There was something deeper lurking beneath the surface. Fate had intertwined their stories, and she was determined to find out what hidden truths lay in their past and how could it impact the future of the festival they were fighting for. Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was happening as the festival buzzed with renewed energy. The chaos had returned to merriment, but the shadow of the stranger still lingered in her mind. Who were they? Why did they seem so invested in everything she and the community were experiencing? As night fell, twinkling lights adorned the stalls, casting a glow on the faces of the crowd, now animated with joy. Music filled the air, drawing people in close to dance and celebrate what could have turned sour but instead transformed into unity. Clara glanced around, feeling the warmth from smiling faces, but also the weight of uncertainty pressing at her chest. "Let us go grab some food," Jack suggested, breaking her focus. "Good idea," Clara replied, but her eyes drifted back to where she last saw the stranger. They were gone. Despite her efforts to focus on the fun, the thought of unearthing the stranger's story gnawed at her. There was something captivating about their aura, something that made Clara feel like she should know them. When she saw a group of children laughing over a game, their laughter echoed a familiar sweetness, reminding her of her own childhood. "Clara!" Jack waved, pulling her from her reverie. He had a plate of funnel cake piled high with powdered sugar. "Look what I scored. Want a bite?" "Only a bite." She laughed, grabbing her own piece as they settled at a wooden bench surrounded by the joyful chaos unfolding around them. "Do you think the woman is going to be okay?" Clara asked, glancing towards where she had last seen the woman who twisted her arm. She hoped for the best while wrestling with a sense of guilt. The community came together quickly. "They'll take care of her," Jack assured her. "You saw it, look at everyone working as a team. It's incredible." His words were like a balm, soothing the inner turmoil she hadn't quite acknowledged until now. Still, the lingering thought of the mysterious stranger clung to her like an uninvited guest at a party. Clara looked around as the music played on, a chorus of laughter and song mingling together. Suddenly, she spied Marty again, moving between the stalls and chatting with a group of adults, his easy demeanor earning him trust. He was a fixture in their community, often underestimated but never unnoticed by those who mattered. She nudged Jack's arm. "See Marty? He's great at bringing people together. We should help him out when we can." "That's the spirit," he said, scratching his head. "Maybe we could organize something for him. Like a volunteer day? To help with the parks or community garden?" Clara suggested, her mind racing. "Absolutely. And maybe we can include some fun activities too, like the festival." Jack's eyes sparkled. "We can create something meaningful, just like what we saw today." The energy between them rippled with excitement, and for a moment, the stranger faded from her thoughts. Then, Clara turned back towards the fading festival lights again, searching. She spotted a figure at the edge of the festivities, one that looked distant yet familiar. Instinctively, her heart raced. "Jack," she whispered, leaning closer to him. "Do you see that person over there?" He followed her gaze, squinting. "Yeah, why? Do you know them?" I think they've been watching," she said, feeling a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The mysterious figure turned, and in the dim light, Clara caught sight of their features. Recognition washed over her as the stranger's smile suddenly felt less enigmatic and more like a key unlocking a vast, hidden door. "Wait, we need to find out who they are," Clara insisted, the urgency captivating her thoughts once more. As Clara and Jack approached, the warmth of the festival faded into an electric tension, and her heart raced at the prospect of uncovering the truth. What secrets did this stranger hold, and could they truly change everything they had built together? The festival lights danced above them, but beneath the celebrations, a journey was about to unfold. That key could open the door to something deeper than either of them had ever expected. Clara took a deep breath, her heart pounding with hope and uncertainty as she walked closer to the figure. Shadows danced in the dim light, but she could feel an undeniable pull toward the stranger. Who were they? What connection did they hold to her world? "Clara, you okay?" Jack asked, his voice low, sensing her growing urgency. "I just want to get a better look," Clara replied, her eyes fixated across the festival grounds as she pushed through the throng of cheerful festival-goers. Each step felt heavy yet exhilarating. She could hear the faint sounds of laughter and the cheerful music, but all that mattered was the stranger. The figure appeared lost in thought, their gaze distant, yet something about the way they held themselves made Clara feel they were deeply connected to her. As she drew closer, the face became clearer, a hint of familiarity was embedded in that warm smile. Clara's pulse quickened at the flicker of recognition. "Excuse me." Clara called out, her voice cutting through the festive noise. The stranger turned, their eyes locking with hers. In that moment, everything else faded away. The chatter, the music, the lights, they all melted into the background. "Do I know you?" Clara asked, feeling a strange mix of confidence and vulnerability. The stranger's smile widened, pulling Clara in like gravity. "I don't think so, but maybe I've been waiting for this moment." Those words hung in the air, thick with possibility. Jack stepped beside Clara, lowering his voice. "Are you sure about this?" "We don't know who they are." Clara glanced at Jack, then back at the stranger. "I have to know." "It's all right," the stranger said softly, stepping forward. "I'm Mara. I came to see the spirit of community here. It's beautiful." "Very well put," Jack said cautiously, his eyes flickering from Clara to Mara, not entirely convinced. Clara's curiosity surged. "You came to see the festival? But what do you mean by the spirit of community?" Mara looked thoughtful. "Sometimes, when I feel lost, I look for places where people come together. It reminds me of what we can build when we stand united, when we share joy. You can feel it in the air here." The insight pierced through Clara's uncertainty. She scanned the crowd, where her neighbors were laughing, kids were spinning joyfully, and food vendors shouted their delights. It was vibrant. It was alive. "But we still have our struggles," Clara admitted softly. There was an incident earlier today. She hesitated but felt the urge to share, as if Mara embodied understanding. "A woman got hurt and there's this knot in my chest about it all." Mara nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. "The beauty in our struggles is that they often bring us together in ways we never expect. Sometimes, it's those very challenges that remind us of our strength." Clara felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was as if Mara had grasped the essence of everything she had been grappling with. Just as Clara opened her mouth to express her gratitude, a sudden commotion erupted behind them. Clara turned to see a group of people gathering, crowding around something on the ground. The music dulled into the background as whispers filled the air, tension swirling like a dark cloud. "What's happening?" Jack asked, his eyes darting toward the crowd. A sense of urgency flared up again in Clara's chest. "We should go see." As they reached the gathering, Clara's mind raced. If Mara was right, maybe there was still hope, even in difficult times. Whatever was happening could either deepen their connection or challenge everything they just started to understand. Clara's heart began to pound again. What if this moment changed how she and her community saw each other forever? The crowd parted, revealing a figure sprawled on the ground. Clara's heart dropped. The face looked familiar. Is that? She breathed, a chilling realization dawning on her. Mara stepped closer, concern etched across her features. We need to help. As the shock of recognition settled in, Clara took a deep breath, knowing that answers awaited if only she had the courage to face them. But what lay ahead? Would the community rise together once more, or would this moment test everything they held dear? The crowd's murmurs ebbed and flowed like a restless tide. Clara felt her heart clench, a mix of fear and determination tightening in her chest. She squeezed through the throng, urgency driving her onward. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown, a leap towards a truth she wasn't prepared to confront. The figure on the ground, their familiar face was etched in her memory, a jarring reminder of the connections she valued and sometimes took for granted. It was Mrs. Thompson, the kind woman from the community center who had hosted art classes for Clara and her friends. Seeing her like this, crumpled and motionless, sent an icy grip of dread coursing through Clara's veins. Someone call an ambulance. Jack shouted, his voice straining in the thickening air. Panic rippled through the crowd, but Clara barely registered it. She knelt beside Mrs. Thompson, instinctively brushing her hair back from her pale face. Mara, what happened? Clara's voice trembled, a sense of urgency steeped in disbelief. She looked to Mara for answers, needing her calm presence even more now. I don't know, Mara breathed, her eyes wide as they darted over the assemblage for help. But we can't just stand here. She needs us. Clara nodded, her resolve sharpening. We need to keep her safe. Just be with her until help arrives. She felt a warmth bloom in her chest, pushing back the icy grip of fear. For all the uncertainty that in-between space of not knowing what would come next, there was something profound about standing there with Mara. As more people joined the gathering, Clara could feel the palpable energy shift. Hands reached down to assist, voices offered encouragement, and eyes studied the scene with a blend of concern and empathy. A mother held her child close, reminding Clara of the community that surrounded them. They were all connected by unseen threads woven through shared moments of joy and sorrow. Stay with me, Mrs. Thompson, Clara murmured softly, wrapping her fingers around the older woman's, feeling the delicate warmth of her pulse beneath her skin. It steadied Clara, grounding her in the moment. Help is coming, you hear me? Time seemed to stretch around them, seconds melting into minutes. With every breath, Clara felt the ebb and flow of hope wading through despair. The collective hum of the crowd added a beat that fortified her spirit. Then, she noticed something flickering along the edges of Mrs. Thompson's lips, a small, fragile smile that twitched like an ember, fighting to spark. Clara leaned in closer, wanting to comfort her. You're going to be okay, she whispered, desperation in her voice. Just then, the distant sound of sirens pierced the heavy atmosphere, a welcome relief that sent a ripple of response through the crowd. They're here. Someone shouted, and Clara felt a tight knot in her chest begin to loosen. As the paramedics rushed in, Clara stepped aside, her heart racing not just for Mrs. Thompson, but for the bond this moment had forged. The crowd shifted, allowing the trained responders to take over, but a new thread had woven through their community's fabric. Mara stood beside Clara, their shoulders brushing. You did well, she said quietly. You're a part of this. We're all a part of this. Clara looked around, feeling a swell of connection rising in her chest. The festival's spirit had been shaken but not broken. This event, painful as it was, revealed their strength as they gathered not just to celebrate but to support one another, living out the meaning of community. But as the paramedics wheeled Mrs. Thompson away, Clara felt a chilling question creep into her mind. What if this was just the beginning? Would she be able to embrace the kind of struggles that bring people together in the first place? Would they find a way to heal amidst the chaos? As those thoughts whirled in her head, the crowd started to disperse, the festival atmosphere transforming in the wake of uncertainty. Clara grabbed Mara's arm, a sudden spark igniting within. Let us find a way to help our community together. And as Mara smiled, Clara felt the pull between them deepen, hinting at a journey that was just beginning. What awaited them beyond this moment? Would they uncover the hidden strengths of their community or stumble into more darkness? Clara and Mara walked slowly away from the scene, the festival's joyous colors now dimmed under the weight of recent events. Clara's mind buzzed, replaying Mrs. Thompson's fragile smile, the warmth of her hand. That connection stirred something deep within her, a need to act, to be part of the healing that lay ahead. I can't stop thinking about her, Clara said, her voice low. We have to do something to honor her. Maybe organize a fundraiser, or help the community center. Mara nodded, her brows furrowing in thought. That could be good. But it might mean reaching out to people in ways we haven't before, not just our friends but everyone who cares about this community. It might be hard. The mere idea sent a shiver of uncertainty through Clara. It was easy to talk about change, but harder to make it real. But that's also what we need, she replied, feeling the resistance within slip slightly away. If we want to build something stronger, we have to include everyone. They paused by a nearby park bench, the crowd continuing to scatter like fallen leaves scattering in the wind. Behind them, laughter and music played, unaware of the shadows cast by what had just happened. What if they don't listen? Mara asked, a flicker of doubt clouding her eyes. What if they don't care? Clara felt the weight of Mara's fear. It mirrored her own. We won't know unless we try, she said, her voice steadying with resolve. Connecting with people means being brave. It might be scary, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Taking a deep breath, Clara looked ahead, imagining a brighter future for their community. We could hold meetings, start conversations. Let us share stories. People love talking about their connection to Mrs. Thompson. I remember her stories of kindness, of how art brought us together. Mara's expression brightened slightly. You're right. People connect through stories. If we can share enough of our experiences, maybe we can pull others in. As if to punctuate their conversation, Clara's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see a message from Jack. I'm around the corner. Let us talk about what we can do next. Jack wants to join, she said, excitement contrasting with leftover trepidation. He's already a part of this community. He knows how to rally people. Then let us meet him. Mara exclaimed, the determination building in her voice now. This is our chance to make a mark, to let Mrs. Thompson's kindness inspire us to bring everyone together. Together, they walked toward Jack, the weight of uncertainty lifting a bit with each step. The air around them felt charged, as if the very essence of hope was rising like the sun breaking through clouds. They gathered near a fountain, where the laughter of children mingled with the splashing water, a serene reminder of joy amidst upheaval. As Jack joined them, Clara felt a spark ignite, a sense of mission surging within the trio. What are we waiting for? Jack asked, a grin forming on his face as he took in their determined expressions. Let us turn this around. We can do something monumental. Clara exchanged glances with Mara, her heart racing at the prospect of possibility. We're with you, she said, clear and unwavering. Let us start to change things now. Just then, the sound of children's laughter became infectious, and Clara realized there was something magic in that shared commitment. They could shield each other from the darkness together, they could craft a message the community would hear, but amidst this newfound energy, one question echoed in Clara's mind: could they really inspire enough change? Would this moment lead them toward unity and strength, or would the shadows of doubt creep back in, dimming their hopeful flame? As they began to brainstorm, Clara could feel the weight of her ambition pressing against the promise of hope, challenging her with the possibility of failure. What would it take to transform a simple festival into an event that could shine a light on their community's heart? The festival buzzed with the echoes of laughter and the vibrant pulse of music. Clara, Jack, and Mara stood together, their spirits intertwined with the collective heartbeat of the community. The recent chaos had somehow morphed into a shared determination, an eagerness to heal and uplift one another in honor of Mrs. Thompson. With the remnants of uncertainty still lingering, Clara felt a flicker of hope. She had always been driven by love for Mia, but now, witnessing the strength of the community brought a new fire to her heart. It was as if every interaction, every smile exchanged, was a reminder that together they were mighty, even in their struggles. Meetings, Jack suggested, his enthusiasm infectious. Let us gather people in the community center, share ideas, and talk about ways to support Mrs. Thompson. We need to bring everyone together, remind them that we're stronger as a team. Clara nodded, feeling a shiver of possibility. Yes. If we start there, we can create a network of support that doesn't stop at just her. We need to show that we care about each other. That we want to build something that lasts. We could organize art sessions, a storytelling night, maybe even a community mural, Mara chimed in, her eyes sparkling with creativity. Art can be a bridge. People love sharing their stories, and it can spark conversations about how we can all contribute. Seeing the enthusiasm light up Mara's face reminded Clara of Mia's joy in dance. Art was a universal language, and everyone had something to share. She took a deep breath, feeling a sense of unity wash over her. Let us get everyone's input. Let us make it a real celebration of all our talents, not just Mrs. Thompson's. Jack beamed, the energy amplifying among them. We can set up a schedule, get volunteers on board. It could spark a movement. We'll ask local businesses to pitch in. I can write up flyers, create a social media event, Mara offered. Let us spread the word far and wide. We don't want just our friends, we want every voice to come forward. As they brainstormed, Clara felt the weight of her eviction notice and looming uncertainties ease just a touch. The festival had acted as a catalyst, igniting something within her that pushed back against despair. She could see the impact they were having, turning from individuals into a force of change. Suddenly, amid their excitement, the figure of the mysterious stranger flashed in her mind. In that moment, she felt their presence again. Their words lingered like a promise. Maybe the encounter had been a call to action. Maybe they had been a witness to something they all needed to confront, the importance of community and the power of standing together in tough times. As they worked on plans to unite the community, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger had gifted her not just with insight but with hope. The festival could be more than just a celebration, it could become a beacon for change. They could uplift the neighborhood, forge deeper connections, and stand against the storms together. As the weeks passed, words of the upcoming community event spread like ripples, touching every corner of the neighborhood. People excitedly began sharing stories, crafting plans, and spreading the vision of a unified effort. Holding hands, Clara, Jack, and Mara would gather with local leaders and community members. They painted murals and listened to each other's stories. With every brush stroke and whispered tale, their connections deepened. Clara watched as Mia twirled among the children, her laughter ringing out, mirroring the joy that filled the air. Look at them. Clara's heart swelled, her eyes glistening with tears. This is what we wanted, isn't it? To create something that lasts. Absolutely, Jack responded, a wide smile stretching across his face as he surveyed the vibrant festival taking shape before them. It's incredible how far we've come, isn't it? Just a few months ago, we were all struggling alone. Now look. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft golden light over the festivities, Clara felt anew. Warmth blossoming in the air. Unity had become more than just a word, it was an experience, tangible and beautiful. Mara looked at Clara, her eyes shining bright. See? You did this. You inspired us all to push forward. But just then, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. Clara's pulse quickened as she recognized Mrs. Thompson, her device cradled in warmth, joined by friends and family members of the community. Thank you for everything you've done. Mrs. Thompson said, her voice thick with gratitude. Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she embraced the woman. The crowd grew silent, all heads turned towards the heartfelt moment. Clara stood there, feeling as if a miracle had unfolded before her as Mrs. Thompson's presence filled the space with hope. This was the culmination of their journeys, the triumph of kindness. Clara felt the heaviness of her eviction notice drop away, lost beneath the sheer joy of community spirit. She looked around at her neighbors, seeing their smiles, the warmth filling the air, and the understanding that the best change comes when they stand together. At that moment, it hit Clara hard, hope was birthed in connection. They had faced storms, but they had emerged stronger. As the festival crescendoed around her, glowing lights twinkling and laughter echoing against the night sky, Clara realized this was not just an event, it was a new beginning. She turned to Jack and Mara, her heart full. "This is just the start of something amazing," she said, a radiant smile illuminating her face. In that instant, Clara knew that the path ahead, though uncertain, would be met with courage, community, and love. As the final notes of music played into the sky, Clara embraced her friends. They were no longer just individuals fighting their battles, they were a united family woven together through resilience, hope, and the spirit of change. Together, they would rise. And as the festival danced on, their story would continue, filled with shared dreams, support, and the unbreakable bond of community. Now, do you feel the spark of their journey? Don't sit idly, subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to subscribe now to witness more transformative tales. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now and feed the algorithm, and don't you dare forget to comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending down below. Get inspired and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who could truly benefit from this journey. You know they need it. What are you waiting for? Don't wait not even one more second. Let us spread the kindness together.